Thibaw Min was born into the heart of the Konbaung dynasty, a world of gilded cages and whispering intrigue. He was not destined for rule, far from it. As a younger son of King Mindon Min, his days were spent amidst the splendors of the Mandalay Palace, but always with the knowledge that true power lay elsewhere. Life within the palace walls was a world unto itself. Eunuchs watched over the royal princes, their whispers carrying tales of courtly life and the shadowy machinations that underpinned it. Education was a privilege reserved for the elite, and Thibaw, like his brothers, would have been schooled in Buddhist scriptures, traditional arts, and the art of statecraft. Yet for all its gilded beauty, the palace held a darker side. The Konbaung dynasty, like many before it, was no stranger to violence and intrigue. Power struggles were a constant threat, and the young prince would have grown up acutely aware of the fragility of life within the royal court. The death of King Mindon in 1878 unleashed a maelstrom of ambition and fear within the palace walls. Queen Sinbumashin, Thibaw's ambitious stepmother, saw a chance to secure her own influence. Her ruthless scheme unfolded swiftly and brutally. Royal princes and princesses, anyone perceived as a threat to Sinbumashin's designs, were systematically eliminated. The whispers of courtly life turned into screams, the gilded cages transformed into prisons of fear. Thibaw, young and unprepared, found himself thrust into this vortex of violence, a pawn in a deadly game orchestrated by his own stepmother. Fear, it is said, can be a powerful motivator. Whether out of genuine terror or a calculated understanding of the stakes, Thibaw allowed himself to be crowned King Thibaw Min, the 11th monarch of the Konbaung dynasty. He was a ruler by circumstance, his ascent marked not by celebration but by bloodshed and the chilling presence of his stepmother, the power behind the throne. Ascending to the throne was one thing, ruling a kingdom in turmoil was another entirely. The young king, thrust into power by bloodshed, inherited a realm grappling with internal strife and the looming shadow of British imperialism. The weight of the golden umbrella, the symbol of Burmese monarchy, must have felt unbearably heavy. The kingdom Thibaw inherited was vast and diverse, stretching from the lush Irrawaddy Delta to the mountainous borders with China. But it was also a kingdom in flux, its traditional structures strained by economic change and the growing influence of European powers. The British, having already annexed Lower Burma in 2 bloody wars, cast a long shadow over the remaining kingdom. Thibaw's reign began in a climate of fear and uncertainty. The massacre that brought him to power had left deep scars on the royal court. The king, a young man in his early 20s, was inexperienced and ill-prepared for the challenges that lay ahead. He was surrounded by advisors, some loyal, others with their own agendas, all vying for the ear of the king. King Thibaw, despite his inauspicious rise to power, was not entirely without vision. He understood the need to modernize his kingdom, to find ways to resist the encroaching influence of the British. He embarked on a series of reforms aimed at strengthening the central government and asserting his authority. One of his most significant moves was an attempt to curtail the growing economic power of the British Bombay-Burma Trading Corporation. The company, with its vast teak forests and trade monopolies, had become a symbol of British economic dominance in Upper Burma. Thibaw sought to limit their influence, hoping to bolster the kingdom's own revenues and reduce British leverage. Beyond economic reforms, Thibaw also sought to strengthen his military, recognizing the ever-present threat from the south. He ordered new weapons from European manufacturers, hoping to modernize his army and better equip it to face the British. These efforts, however, were hampered by a lack of funds and the technological disparity between the Burmese and British forces. While Thibaw grappled with internal challenges and sought to strengthen his kingdom, the British watched with growing impatience. The expansionist ambitions of the British Empire, fueled by Victorian-era confidence and a thirst for resources, saw Upper Burma as the inevitable next step in their conquest of Southeast Asia. The British found a convenient pretext for intervention in the escalating tensions between the Burmese monarchy and the Bombay-Burma Trading Corporation. Accusations of unfair trade practices and mistreatment of British subjects provided the justification they needed to move their forces towards the Burmese border. Diplomacy in the face of British imperial ambitions proved futile. Ultimatums were issued and ignored. The British, confident in their military superiority, had little interest in negotiation. For them, the annexation of Upper Burma was not a matter of if, but when. The stage was set for a final decisive confrontation. The discovery of rubies in Upper Burma in the early 1880s added another layer of complexity to the already strained relations between Thibaw and the British. The ruby mines, a source of potential wealth for the Burmese monarchy, became yet another point of contention, further fueling the British desire for control over the region. The British, through the Bombay-Burma Trading Corporation, attempted to secure concessions in the ruby-rich areas, but their efforts were met with resistance from the Burmese court. The discovery of the mines, while potentially a boon for the Burmese economy, ultimately served to hasten the kingdom's demise. The dispute over the ruby mines played directly into the hands of those within the British administration who favoured a more aggressive approach to Upper Burma. It provided a tangible example of the economic potential that lay beyond their grasp, fueling their desire to bring the kingdom under their direct control. In November 1885, the might of the British Empire descended upon Mandalay. The Third Anglo-Burmese War, a short, sharp conflict, marked the end of centuries of Burmese independence. Outnumbered and outgunned, the Burmese forces stood little chance against the disciplined British troops armed with modern weaponry. The fall of Mandalay, the heart of the Konbaung dynasty, was swift and decisive. Within weeks, the city fell, and with it the reign of Thibaw Min came to an abrupt and humiliating end. The king, urged by his queen to fight, instead chose to surrender, hoping to avoid further bloodshed. The British, keen to avoid a prolonged and costly insurgency, treated the captured king with a semblance of respect. He was allowed to retain his personal possessions, but the golden umbrella, the symbol of Burmese sovereignty, was unceremoniously packed away. Thibaw Min, the last king of Burma, had been dethroned, his kingdom absorbed into the ever-expanding British Empire. With the fall of Mandalay, Thibaw Min and his family were whisked away from their homeland, embarking on a journey into exile that would see them spend the rest of their days far from the golden spires and verdant landscapes of Burma. The British, eager to prevent the deposed king from becoming a rallying point for resistance, chose India as his place of exile. They were first taken to Ratnagiri, a coastal town in Maharashtra, where they lived in relative comfort but under constant British surveillance. The former king, stripped of his power and his kingdom, spent his days in quiet contemplation, a stark contrast to the grandeur of his former life. Despite the circumstances of his exile, Thibaw never relinquished his claim to the Burmese throne. He wrote numerous letters to the British government, pleading for his reinstatement or at least the return of his family to Burma. These pleas fell on deaf ears. The last king of Burma died in exile in 1916, his dream of returning to his homeland unfulfilled. Thibaw Min's reign, brief and tumultuous, marked the end of an era in Burmese history. The fall of the Konbaung dynasty and the subsequent absorption of Upper Burma into the British Empire had far-reaching consequences for the country and its people. Thibaw's legacy, however, remains a subject of debate. Some view him as a weak and indecisive ruler whose actions or lack thereof paved the way for British conquest. Others see him as a tragic figure, a king ill-prepared for the challenges of his time, caught between the machinations of his own court and the relentless advance of British imperialism. Regardless of the perspective, Thibaw Min's reign serves as a poignant reminder of the human cost of colonialism, the loss of sovereignty, and the enduring power of national identity. His story continues to resonate in modern-day Myanmar, a tale whispered in tea shops and recounted in history books, a testament to the enduring legacy of the last king of Burma.